morning you guys, it's Karen and I am here today to talk about two studies that look at hair loss and treatment with essential oils or aromatherapy, which is really interesting. I came across this when I was researching hair loss and what I could do for it when I was doing that video on menopausal hair. I didn't talk about the essential oils at the time because I hadn't looked at the research. I wanted to look at the two research studies. As it turns out, one of them doesn't have a full text and the other one is only a very small brief study, but still it's very interesting and it's a treatment I would potentially try in the future. I've really enjoyed looking at the research as well and, you know, critiquing it because that's exactly what I did in my job, and so I can imagine the things that I would be saying to the researchers on these studies. The studies are actually looking at different conditions. The first one is alopecia areata, which is a genetic condition, and the second study is looking at androgenic hair loss, which is hormonal, so more like the sort of male pattern baldness that you can get with menopause, you know, where your hairline recedes, etc. But they were both had improvement with the whole hair loss and hair growth. So study number one is called a randomized trial of aromatherapy, successful treatment for alopecia areata. When talking about the design, it says it's a randomized double-blind controlled trial of 7 months duration with a follow-up at 3 and 7 months. This is definitely a randomized study because what they did is they've taken 86 patients, split them down the middle. They have randomly allocated them to either the treatment group, which will be getting essential oils, and this study is a mixture of essential oils, or to the control group, which is just getting a carrier oil, so jojoba and grapeseed oil, and they'll be rubbing that into their head. The other ones will be using the same carrier oil, but with added essential oils in. So it's randomized, as in the patients can't choose which study they go in. It is controlled in that there's a control group to compare it to, so one group that's not using any treatment at all, or they're just using the carrier oil. I don't agree that it's double blind. To me, it's not blind at all, because I suppose maybe the researcher won't know what people are using if they've washed their hair well enough when they come in. So it's maybe blind, but it's certainly not double blind. The patients will be aware because they'll have an information sheet about this study, so they'll know that it's about aromatherapy oils and which ones, and they will be able to smell whether or not there is one in the product that they're using. And I think that's really important for this study because the group that are just using a carrier oil will probably twig on that they're not in the treatment group, and they could easily then go and add in essential oils, which skews the results, or they could stop using the carrier oil, which in itself could skew the results because actually there may be some effect from the carrier oil. The group that are using the essential oils will probably figure out that they're in the treatment group, and they may well use it more often. You don't know, you know, when you've got hair loss and you're desperate and you know that this is a treatment, and especially when it's coming from a hospital, I could see people using it more than they should. That's things that have happened in studies in the past, which is why you have to have a way of making people compliant, which is for it to be double blind. They don't know, and there are companies out there that will make sort of fake smells for you. That side, it's a really interesting study. They asked all of the 86 patients to massage in the product they gave them for a minimum of 2 minutes every night and then wrap their hair in a warm towel. It doesn't tell me whether or not it was then washed out or whether they put it in overnight and washed it out in the morning. It doesn't give you that level of detail, which is a shame. But the products that they used for the control group was jojoba oil at 3 ml and grapeseed oil at 20 ml, so that was just a carrier oil. And then for the treatment group, they used that carrier oil plus 2 milligrams of thyme, 3 milligrams of rosemary, 3 milligrams of lavender, and 2 milligrams of cedarwood in that same carrier oil. So that's all they really tell you about the study. They don't tell you very much more, but the results were looked at by a statistician and shown to be significant. And the results were that 44% in the treatment group had an improvement versus only 15% in the control group. So the ones that weren't using the treatment, there was a 15% improvement. So that could have been from massaging the carrier oil. So it shows you that jojoba and grapeseed oil and just massaging the scalp has some effect itself, or I mean that could have been anything else they were doing in their life. You know, we don't know what else there was going on with them, but that is quite a big number, you know, 44%. Okay, the next study is called Rosemary Oil versus Minoxidil 2% for the treatment of androgenic alopecia, a randomized comparative trial. So not a double-blind study, not a blind study at all, without a control group. So this is comparing one against the other. So it's comparing rosemary oil against minoxidil 2% and minoxidil is something that is already proven to work for hair loss. The problem with this is there really is only an abstract. I can't find a full text anywhere. I can't find any more details of this study, but it doesn't tell you how much rosemary oil they used. It doesn't tell you much at all. It just tells you they were comparing rosemary with minoxidil and that they were randomized, and that when they looked at 3 months, there was no improvement for either group. Nothing had happened at 3 months, but that at 6 months, both groups were exactly the same in terms of improvement, and there was improvement. But it doesn't give you any details of that other than, so there's no difference at 3 months. Frequencies of dry hair, greasy hair and dandruff were not found to be significantly different. Scalp itching. The conclusion is the findings of the present trial provided evidence with respect to the efficacy of rosemary oil in the treatment of androgenic alopecia, but I don't think that it does provide evidence. They need to provide a full text or do more studies. Like I said, it doesn't tell you how many people were in this study. Trying to find the bit where it actually says that it was successful. Both groups experienced a significant increase in hair count at the 6 month endpoint. That's the bit that it talks about. So I don't know whether that was photographic or independent. I don't know how that was done. It doesn't tell you, but that's everything I have on that second study. So not great, not much that I can critique there, but I love that there are 2 studies about aromatherapy oils. And if I was personally going to try oils rather than using a minoxidil or something, then I would probably use rosemary, because I love rosemary. I love the smell of rosemary. I actually thought at one point this was helping my migraines, and I think it does, in that it helps me be calmer if I'm panicking about them or anything like that. I just absolutely love the smell, and I love the Tisserand ones, but you could do that little concoction of thyme, rosemary, lavender and cedarwood. That would probably be really nice as well. Massage it into your head, put a warm towel around it, potentially leave it on overnight. Depends if you have an irritated scalp or not. I would say you'd need to be careful using essential oil, so probably scrap that. Don't leave it on overnight. Leave it on for maybe half an hour and rinse it off and see if your scalp's okay. You know, concentrate at first with the irritation, I would say, because it doesn't talk about that here, but there is potential for irritation there. If you have no irritation, then increase the amount of time. And this was done in both of these studies, from what I can tell, it was done every day. And so the difference would be that you're using, I suppose, something natural, and it's probably less expensive than minoxidil, but very, very interesting. So I hope that you also found that interesting. Like I said, I may well try it in the future, but I only wash my hair every 3 days, so to do it every day, I'd need to be pretty desperate. And at the moment, the caffeine shampoo is working pretty well for me. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you're going to try it. And yeah, that's everything. Let me tell you what I'm wearing makeup-wise. I have got on the IT Cosmetics Your Skin But Better foundation in 22. On my eyes is a little eyeshadow palette by Charlotte Tilbury that I'm just about to show in a haul, actually. Then on my lips is Stila liquid lipstick in Patina Shimmer. Doesn't look particularly shimmery, but I do really like it. And then on my cheeks, I've got the Kiko blush in, I think it's just in 03, something like that. I'll try and remember and link it for you. So that's everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.